Hi guys, and welcome back to my YouTube project. First of all, I want to greet everyone a happy May the 1st, and May the 1st be with you. Okay, yeah, so for today I wanted to share with you how we got started with our plans to move to Canada. I was doing my research and I connected with one of my cousins who lived here. Basically, apparently I found out that Canadian government had this immigration program called the Express Entry Program, where applicants for PR were assessed for their, so to say, something like your economic viability. If you were to live in Canada, how were you to succeed economically, and how would you contribute to the economy of Canada itself? So, and with that, you're actually assessed for three things. And what I'd like to think as the 3 E's, it's not technically the 3 E's, and I'll explain that a little later. Sorry, I feel so cold because it is really cold. And yeah, so 3 E's: education, English ability, but it's actually language ability, and experience or work experience. So all of these factors are taken into consideration, given points, and along with other factors, and they consider if you have enough points to get you into the system and be invited to apply for permanent residence. Anyway, so that's what my cousin told me. Why don't I try for permanent residence? And back then I had been living in Japan for I think a year and a half, but I hadn't learned Japanese. And here comes my cousin suggesting that I move to Canada. If you are somebody who likes the calm and the peace and the quiet, and or you just want to recharge, that might be something you'd like to consider if you want to move to Canada. So that I got Jay to join me on this thing that I was undertaking, and then we just went on to prepare for everything. We did it DIY, and as much as it surprises me, people ask me what agency I engaged for helping me prepare for move to Canada. It also surprises others that it is possible to do it DIY. It is possible. There are a lot of groups online and Facebook of people who have done it. Basically, if your application is straightforward, it's very easy to do. And I'm saying this because we did it. So that means it's not impossible. Only thing is, we have to do the research. We have to do the research, we have to do the work, and we have to know what we are doing. And personally, it also matters that we like what we are doing. I like these things. I like this sense of adventure and trying for something that I really want to pursue. And the decision to go DIY is because we just said, okay, we don't want to use this money. We don't want to spare this dime for something that we can do for ourselves. Really, if you want, if you're not confident, reach out. So there's a comment box below. It's not for promotional purposes, just interact with this post if you have questions about Join DIY for immigration to Canada. And I'm just gonna share as much information as I can about our experience for moving to Canada. I also want to let people know that this thing called Show Money, as much as it's Show Money, try to, if you're thinking of moving to Canada, also try to save for the move to Canada itself. That was also one of the considerations we had when we went DIY. We would rather use our funds to support us for life here. So, because right now the situation is we are new and there's freeze hiring, and a lot of the offices are closed. So it's become such of a challenge finding jobs. And I guess I'll be speaking about that later on, but yes, so you want to be prepared for times like these. At least give yourself a shot at surviving. And that Show Money, even if you're just showing it for your initial application, for when you submit your files, you're gonna need to show that you're gonna want to show that you still had it when you get here to Canada. They don't usually ask you if you have enough money in the bank or with you at the time that you're entering Canada. We have heard that there's some people who are not asked at all, just how much you're bringing, just whether it's over 10,000 Canadian dollars or not. But some officers don't ask for your bank statements if you've left the other part of your funds in your bank account in whatever country you're coming from. But you're still gonna want to have enough money to support yourself. Let's say there's another lockdown that happens by the time that you arrive here, and you only really have so little to help you out. So at the moment, at the current crisis that we're encountering, Jade and I are preparing ourselves for at least 4 months that we are going to be using the settlement funds that were required of us anyway during our application. So yes, that's one, I guess, very key point that I like to share. So it takes a lot of preparation, and I would like to advocate people to really, 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 really prepare. It helps a lot. Doing enough research, reaching out to people, asking questions, and having a support group. Another thing again, so I'm just gonna be rambling through all of these. I'm not gonna polish it as much. It's just, I guess, the early stages of this project anyway, and but just a few early points. Support groups. When we were starting our application here and we had separate tracks, and doing our own research, of course, there are people who have the same, not circumstances per se, but the challenges. You're going to be going through the same process, and in that, more or less, you will be subject to the same criteria and the same requirements. And that in itself can put people in a bind. Put people in a fix. And those shared experiences, people just come together. And we have met people from Indonesia, people from India, and basically the support that we can get from people with the same circumstances as we do, especially dealing with the stresses, the uncertainties of fielding your application for permanent residence, it kind of helps because yes, we do have our family, but not every one of our family will be migrating to Canada, will be going DIY, will be putting their future at stake to take a shot that we're not certain. So, and in uncharted territory nonetheless. So that's another thing that greatly helped us, and another key decision that we had to make, to reach out to people who are attempt to reach out to people who are at least might be on the same boat as us, or might have some semblance of a set of concerns that we had as well. Yes, so it's very, very important that we help ourselves out, research and reach out as well, preparation. And finally, at least for this, there are a lot of checklists. I have found out during this experience of migrating to Canada, there are a lot of checklists available. So even at the time that you're completing your application, there's a checklist. At the time before, like the 3 things that I just shared, that in itself is a checklist. Before you arrive, that's a checklist. There is a checklist. And after you've arrived, there's also a checklist. So there are these many things that should serve as our guide to help us through the process of from trying to complete a profile, completing an application, preparing for Canada, and settling in Canada. And so these are things that if you're considering moving to Canada, you want to think about in different ways. So if that works for you as well, again, if you have any questions, you're just thinking about it, and you want to know from like a personal perspective, a real person's perspective, a newcomer to Canada's perspective, please do drop me a comment below, and I will see what I can do in answering your questions. So, cheers.